Hey there, night owls and storm chasers. Imagine this. The sky opens up, rain pounding like 1,000 drums on your roof, turning the world into a blurry, shadowy haze. Streets glisten under streetlights. Thunder rumbles like a distant growl, and the night feels alive with secrets. But what if that cozy storm hides something sinister? Tonight, we're diving into 5 very scary, true rainy night horror stories, drawn from real accounts that survivors swear by. These tales of drenched dread will make you pull the curtains tight and rethink stepping out in the downpour. From ghostly hitchhikers to lurking figures in the mist, these stories blend the ordinary terror of a storm with horrors that linger long after the rain stops. Grab your umbrella, or maybe just hide under the covers, and let's start with the first one. If you're brave enough for all 5, stick around. But beware, the thunder might not be the only thing knocking. Story 1. The Hitchhiker in the Downpour. It was a stormy night in October 1992 in the rural backroads of Pennsylvania, where heavy rains turned dirt paths into muddy rivers. David Harlan, a 35-year-old truck driver from Pittsburgh, was hauling freight through the Allegheny Mountains, his rig battling sheets of rain that blurred the windshield like a veil. David was no stranger to bad weather. He'd driven in blizzards and fogs, but this night felt different. The air heavy, the radio static crackling with interference. He'd heard the old tales from fellow truckers, ghosts on rainy highways, spirits doomed to wander in the storm. But David was a skeptic, focused on making his deadline. Little did he know, this ride would change him forever, a story he'd share only with close friends, backed by police reports that still puzzle investigators. The rain hammered relentlessly as David crested a hill, his headlights cutting through the deluge. Up ahead, a figure stood on the shoulder, thumb out, soaked to the bone. It was a young woman, early 20s, in a light jacket and jeans. No umbrella or bag, just standing there, unmoving. David hesitated. Picking up hitchhikers was risky, especially at night, but leaving her in this torrent felt wrong. He pulled over, mud splashing under his tires, and rolled down the window. "Need a lift?" he shouted over the roar. She nodded, climbing in without a word, water dripping from her like she'd been submerged. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes, dark pools that seemed to swallow the dashboard light. They drove in silence at first, the wipers slapping rhythmically. David tried small talk. "Nasty night out there. Where you headed?" She stared ahead, voice soft but clear. "Just up the road, to the old bridge." David knew it. The covered bridge over Willow Creek, about 10 miles away, a relic from the 1800s. "What's your name?" he asked. "Anna," she replied, her tone flat. As they talked, she shared fragments. She'd been walking home from a party, got caught in the rain. But details shifted. First the party was in town, then out in the woods. David felt a chill. The cab was cold despite the heater blasting. Rain pounded harder, thunder shaking the truck. As they approached the bridge, Anna grew agitated, fidgeting with her hands. "Stop here," she said abruptly. David pulled over. The bridge looming in the headlights, its wooden frame slick and dark. "You sure? It's pouring?" She nodded, opening the door. A gust of wind whipped rain inside, carrying a faint, musty smell, like wet earth and decay. "Thanks for the ride, David," she said, stepping out. He froze. How did she know his name? He hadn't told her. Before he could ask, she vanished into the storm, her form dissolving into the rain like mist. Shaken, David drove on, heart racing. He reached the next truck stop around midnight, a dingy diner called Route 19 Rest. Inside, he mentioned the hitchhiker to the waitress, an older woman named Gladys with a cigarette voice. "Young girl, Anna? Heading to the bridge?" Gladys's face went ashen. She pulled out a faded newspaper clipping from behind the counter, a story from 1975 about a fatal accident on that bridge. Anna Reynolds, 22, had been driving home in a storm when her car hydroplaned, crashing through the railing into the creek below. She drowned, body found days later. The photo matched. Same pale face, same dark eyes. But that wasn't all. Gladys whispered that Anna had been hitching rides ever since, especially on rainy nights, always vanishing at the bridge. Truckers reported it for years, some safely, others not. One driver in 1984 swerved to avoid a ghost car after dropping her off, totaling his rig. Police logs confirmed unexplained accidents on that stretch during storms, survivors raving about a vanishing passenger. David felt ice in his veins. He'd smelled that decay. Was it the creek? Or her? He left the diner in a hurry, rain still falling. Back on the road, his radio sputtered to life, playing an old folk song about lost lovers in the rain. Static cut in, a faint voice, Anna's whispering, "Come back, it's cold down here." David floored it, but the truck fishtailed on the wet pavement. He corrected just in time, heart in his throat. That night, in a motel, he dreamed of Anna at his bedside, water pooling on the floor, her hand reaching out, icy and wet. He woke to damp sheets, not sweat, but actual water, as if she'd been there. Years later, David shared his story on a radio show about paranormal encounters. Callers flooded in, more sightings of Anna, always in rain, always at night. Investigators visited the bridge, finding etchings on the wood, names of drivers who'd picked her up, including David's, carved fresh despite the weathering. Weather reports matched. Storms on those nights were unnatural, popping up suddenly, vanishing fast. David never drove that route again. He warns truckers, if you're out in a downpour and see a hitchhiker who knows too much, keep going, because some storms carry the dead, and they're looking for company in the deep. Story 2. The Footsteps in the Alley. In the spring of 2008, in a quiet suburb of Manchester, England, 28-year-old Claire Thompson was walking home from her shift at a local pub. It was a rainy April night, the kind where the streets glistened under sodium streetlights, and the downpour muffled the world into a soft, eerie hum. Claire, a single mother with a knack for staying calm under pressure, was used to late-night walks through her town's cobbled alleys. But this night, as the rain poured and thunder growled, she encountered something that would haunt her for years, a story she shared in a local support group and later on a UK-based paranormal forum, backed by similar accounts that chilled her neighbors. Claire's route took her through a narrow alley behind the high street, flanked by old brick buildings and overflowing bins. The rain was relentless, soaking her coat, her umbrella useless against the wind. Her boots splashed through puddles, the sound echoing off the walls. About halfway through, she noticed it. A second set of footsteps, heavier, deliberate, keeping pace with hers. She stopped, heart skipping, expecting a drunk or a stray dog. The alley was empty, just rain and shadows. She laughed nervously, blaming her imagination, and kept walking. The footsteps resumed, closer now, splashing in sync but slightly off, like someone, or something, was mimicking her. Turning to face the sound, Claire shone her phone's weak flashlight. Nothing but wet cobblestones and a dumpster leaking trash. The footsteps stopped when she did, but the air felt charged, like before a lightning strike. A low chuckle echoed, not human but guttural, like water gurgling in a drain. "Claire," it whispered, her name stretched into a hiss. She froze, her breath catching. No one knew she was here. She'd told no one her route. The rain intensified, and with it, the footsteps grew louder, now coming from all directions, behind, beside, even above, as if pacing the rooftops. Panic surged. Claire ran, her umbrella abandoned, splashing through ankle-deep water. The footsteps chased, faster, heavier, like boots stomping in mud. She felt a cold breath on her neck, wet and reeking of decay, like a flooded basement. Glancing back, she saw a shape in the rain, tall, hunched, its outline blurred as if made of the storm itself. With eyes like twin flashes of lightning. It didn't run but glided, keeping pace effortlessly. The chuckle returned, now a laugh, mocking her as she stumbled. She burst onto the high street, lights and passing cars a lifeline. The footsteps stopped, the shape gone, but her coat was soaked not just with rain, but with a slimy residue, like algae. Gasping, she ducked into a 24-hour chip shop where the owner, Mr. Patel, saw her distress. "You look like you've seen the devil," he said, offering tea. Claire spilled the story, shaking. Mr. Patel's face darkened. He knew the alley. Locals called it Drowned Lane, named for a 19th century flood that swept away a family, their bodies never found. Old-timers swore the alley was cursed, especially in Thor in Rain, with sightings of a wet man chasing walkers. He showed her a faded photo from the 1970s, a figure in the alley blurred by rain, eyes glowing like sparks. "Happens every storm," he said. Claire researched local history. The flood was real. 1876, a storm so fierce it turned the alley into a river. Diaries from the time mentioned a man, a drunkard, who drowned trying to save his child, his body lost. Since then, rainy nights brought reports of footsteps, laughter, and a figure that vanished when seen. Police logs from the 1990s and 2000s noted hallucinations in the alley during storms, people hearing their names, feeling touches, finding slime on their clothes. No arrests, no explanations. Online forums buzzed with tales. A 2001 delivery driver chased by footsteps, a 2015 dog walker finding claw marks on her gate after a rainy night encounter. Claire moved away, unable to walk the alley again. She dreams of that laugh, waking to find her windows fogged with condensation, even in dry weather. Her new house avoids alleys, but rainy nights make her check the locks. She warns, if you're out in a storm and hear footsteps that aren't yours, don't look back. Because what walks in the rain might follow you home, dripping with intent. Story 3. The bus stop that wasn't there. In the autumn of 2014, in a small coastal town in Oregon, 19-year-old Jenna Riley was a college freshman commuting to her night classes at a community college 20 miles from home. Rainy nights were common in the Pacific Northwest, and Jenna was used to waiting at the isolated bus stop on a quiet stretch of Highway 101, where the ocean's roar mixed with the patter of rain. She'd heard local legends about ghostly hitchhikers or strange lights in the fog, but as a practical biology major, she brushed them off as small-town folklore. That changed one stormy September night when a lockdown at her college led her to a bus stop that seemed to exist only in the rain. a chilling experience she later shared in a campus newspaper and on a local paranormal podcast, corroborated by others who'd encountered the same impossible place. Jenna's evening started with a biology lecture, but halfway through, the college's alarm system blared, "Lockdown, secure all areas, this is not a drill." The professor, Dr. Ellis, locked the classroom door, turned off the lights, and ushered the 15 students under desks. Whispers spread about a suspicious individual spotted near the campus library. Jenna crouched beside her classmate Marcus, clutching her backpack, the rain outside hammering the windows like fists. The lockdown dragged on for an hour, tense but uneventful. No sounds of intruders, just the storm's relentless drone. When the all-clear came, campus security escorted students out, but buses were delayed due to flooded roads. Jenna, stranded, headed to the highway bus stop, hoping for a late ride home. The rain was torrential, visibility near zero, the wind carrying a salty chill from the nearby ocean. The bus stop was a simple shelter, a bench under a metal roof, no walls, just a flickering streetlight casting a weak glow. Jenna huddled there, alone, her hoodie soaked, checking her phone for bus updates. The screen kept glitching, showing no service, despite usually having bars. Then she noticed it. The streetlight's glow dimmed, and the rain seemed to slow, like a movie in slow motion. Across the highway, where a grassy ditch should have been, stood another bus stop, identical to hers, down to the rusted bench. But it wasn't there yesterday. A figure sat inside, motionless, head bowed, cloaked in a dripping raincoat. Jenna rubbed her eyes, thinking it was a mirage from the rain. But the shelter stayed, and the figure raised its head, revealing no face, just a dark void under the hood, like a hole in reality. A voice whispered through the storm, not from the figure, but from the rain itself. "Come across, the bus is waiting." Jenna's heart pounded. The voice knew her name, weaving it into the sound of falling drops. Jenna, cross now. She stepped back. But the shelter across the road seemed closer, as if the highway had narrowed. The figure stood, its movements jerky, like a puppet, and pointed at her. The air grew heavy, smelling of brine and something foul like rotting fish. Terrified, Jenna ran back toward the college, but the road stretched unnaturally, the campus lights fading into fog. The whispers followed, now a chorus. "You missed the bus. You'll never leave." Her phone buzzed, displaying a photo she hadn't taken, her own face, pale and screaming inside the phantom bus stop. Headlights pierced the rain, a real bus, finally arriving. Jenna flagged it down, collapsing onto a seat as the driver, an older man named Hank, asked if she was okay. She stammered about the other bus stop, but when she pointed, it was gone. Just the ditch, no shelter, no figure. At the next stop, Jenna told Hank everything. His face grew grim. "You saw the ghost stop," he said. He'd heard stories from other drivers. A bus stop appearing on rainy nights, luring people to cross the highway, only for them to vanish. A 1980s police report described a student disappearing near that stretch during a storm, her bag found in the ditch, soaked but empty. Locals tied it to a 1950s bus accident where a vehicle plunged into the ocean, killing all aboard. Survivors, though rare, reported a shelter that wasn't on any map, with a figure beckoning. Hank himself had seen it once, in 2005, but sped past, heart racing. Jenna dug deeper, finding coastal folklore about a drowned stop, tied to the lost passengers who sought new riders to join them. Online forums shared similar tales. A 1999 driver seeing a shelter with glowing eyes inside. A 2010 hitchhiker vanishing after crossing to a phantom stop. Jenna's photo was gone when she checked again, but her phone case was damp, crusted with salt. She stopped taking that bus route, moving to on-campus housing. Rainy nights still bring dreams of the figure, its void face calling her to cross. If you're waiting at a lonely bus stop in a storm and see another across the road, don't move. The rain might be hiding something that wants you to board a bus that never arrives. Story 4. The Reflection in the Puddle. In the fall of 2017, in a small town in rural Saskatchewan, Canada, 24-year-old Ethan Moore was driving home from his job at a grain elevator, a routine he'd followed for years. The prairies stretched endlessly under a sky heavy with rain, the kind of storm that turned gravel roads into slick traps. Ethan, a no-nonsense guy who preferred country music to ghost stories, was used to navigating these lonely routes, even in bad weather. But on one cold, rainy October night, a fleeting glimpse in a puddle would unravel his sense of reality, leaving him with a story he shared reluctantly at a local bar and later on a Canadian paranormal blog, corroborated by eerie local legends and unexplained police reports. Ethan's pickup truck rumbled along a back road, the windshield wipers struggling against sheets of rain. It was around 10 p.m., and the world was reduced to the narrow beam of his headlights. The radio played static, unable to hold a signal in the storm, and the air felt thick, like breathing through a wet cloth. As he rounded a curve near an abandoned farmhouse, known locally as the Gray Place for its weathered boards, he noticed a large puddle reflecting his headlights. In it, he saw something that made him slam on the brakes. A face, not his own, staring back. It was pale, gaunt, with eyes like black pits, mouth stretched in a silent scream. Ethan blinked, heart pounding, but the puddle now showed only the sky and his truck's lights. He chalked it up to fatigue. Long shifts at the elevator were grueling, but as he drove on, the rain seemed to whisper, a faint hiss forming words. "Look again, Ethan." His name in the storm sent a chill down his spine. He glanced at the side mirror, and there it was again. The same face, now in the glass, superimposed over his reflection. The eyes locked onto his, unblinking, and the mouth moved, mouthing, "Follow me." Ethan swerved, nearly skidding into the ditch, and stopped the truck, panting. The mirror was clear now, but his hands trembled. Against his better judgment, Ethan stepped out, rain soaking him instantly. The farmhouse loomed across the field, its windows dark but somehow watching. Another puddle caught his eye, larger, reflecting the storm clouds. The face appeared again, clearer, skeletal, with matted hair clinging to a skull-like head. It raised a hand, pointing toward the farmhouse. The whisper grew louder, carried by the wind. "Come inside. You're expected." Ethan's boots sank into the mud as he backed away, but the puddle rippled, and the face emerged, not just a reflection but rising, water streaming from a bony form that clawed its way onto the road. Ethan bolted back to his truck, locking the doors. The figure stood in the rain, motionless, its eyes glowing faintly like distant lightning. It didn't chase but watched, head tilting unnaturally. Ethan floored the gas, tires spinning before catching traction. The figure faded into the storm, but the whispers followed, echoing in his cab. "You can't outrun us." His dashboard flickered, and the radio spat a garbled voice repeating his name. By the time he reached town, the rain had slowed, but his truck's interior was damp, smelling of mildew and something metallic, like blood. At the town's only diner, Ethan told the story to a regular old man Harris, a retired farmer with a knack for local history. Harris wasn't surprised. The gray place, he said, was cursed. In the 1930s, a family had lived there, wiped out by a flood that swept their home into a nearby creek. The father, driven mad by grief, was said to haunt rainy nights, luring drivers to the house to join his family. Harris shared a 1970s tale. A trucker who saw a face in a puddle crashed and was found babbling about a wet man dragging him toward the farmhouse. Police reports from the 1980s and 2000s noted similar incidents, drivers swerving off the road in storms, claiming reflections spoke to them, some never found. Ethan dug into the history. The flood was real, documented in town records, with the father's body missing, presumed drowned. Locals avoided the gray place, especially in rain, when puddles seemed to show more than they should. Online forums echoed the tale, a 1995 driver seeing a figure rise from a puddle, a 2010 farmer finding his truck's mirrors etched with claw marks after a stormy drive. Ethan's truck had scratches on the driver's side door, shallow but jagged, like nails dragged across metal. He sold the vehicle, unable to shake the feeling of being watched. Ethan moved to Calgary, avoiding rural roads. Rainy nights bring nightmares of that face, its mouth screaming his name. He checks puddles obsessively, fearing reflections that don't belong. If you're driving in a storm and see a face in the water, don't stop, because some reflections aren't yours, and they want you to follow them into the dark. Story 5. The Knock at the Cabin. In the winter of 2019, in the remote forests of Washington state, 32-year-old Lauren Brooks and her husband Matt decided to escape their hectic Seattle lives for a weekend at a rented cabin near Lake Cushman. The couple, both tech professionals, craved quiet, and the forecast of a rainy weekend didn't deter them. Rain was practically a love language in the Pacific Northwest. The cabin, a cozy A-frame nestled among towering cedars, promised solitude with no neighbors for miles. But on a stormy November night, a series of knocks during a torrential downpour turned their getaway into a nightmare that Lauren later shared in a therapy group and on a regional paranormal podcast, backed by unsettling local lore and unexplained incidents. The rain started as they arrived Friday evening, a steady drizzle that turned into a deluge by nightfall. Thunder rumbled, shaking the cabin's windows, and the wind howled through the trees, making them creak like old bones. Lauren and Matt were curled up by the fireplace, sipping wine and playing cards, the power flickering but holding. Around 11 p.m., as lightning lit the sky, 3 sharp knocks echoed from the front door. Slow, deliberate, like someone striking with purpose. Matt frowned. They hadn't seen headlights or heard a car on the gravel road. "Who'd be out in this?" he muttered, grabbing a flashlight. Lauren peered through the door's peephole, seeing only rain and darkness. "Maybe a branch?" she suggested, but the knocks came again, louder, now from the back door. Matt, a burly guy not easily spooked, grabbed a fire poker and opened the front door, shining the light into the storm. Nothing. No footprints in the mud, no tire tracks, just rain pounding the porch. The knocks repeated, this time from a window, a rhythmic thud, thud, thud that vibrated the glass. Lauren's stomach twisted. The cabin felt smaller, the walls closing in. "Hello," Matt shouted, his voice swallowed by the storm. A whisper answered, faint but clear, from nowhere and everywhere. Let me in. The air grew icy, the fireplace dimming as if starved of oxygen. Lauren noticed the rain sound shift, forming words in its patter. Lauren, Matt, open the door. Their names in the storm made her skin crawl. Matt slammed the doors shut, locking them, and they barricaded the windows with furniture. The knocks grew frantic, coming from all sides, doors, windows, even the roof, like something was crawling above. Lauren's phone, charging by the couch, flickered on, displaying a photo of the cabin's exterior in the rain, with a figure standing at the edge of the trees. A tall, skeletal shape in a tattered cloak, its face a smear of shadow. Neither had taken it. Terrified, Lauren called 911, but the line crackled with static, a voice mimicking hers. Let me in. She hung up, hands shaking. Matt, trying to stay rational, checked the cabin's crawlspace hatch, finding it locked but wet, as if water had seeped through. The knocks stopped abruptly, replaced by scratching, slow, deliberate, like nails carving wood. Lauren shone her flashlight at the ceiling, revealing faint scratches forming words. You can't hide. The fireplace went out, plunging the room into darkness, and a low laugh echoed, wet and guttural, like someone gargling mud. They huddled in the bedroom, barricading the door with a dresser. The storm raged, but the cabin felt alive, the walls creaking with whispers of their names. Lauren remembered a co-worker's story about the area, a hermit who lived near Lake Cushman in the 1950s, found dead after a storm, his cabin scratched with pleas for help. Locals called him the Rain Man, claiming he haunted rainy nights, knocking on doors to lure victims into the forest. Matt scoffed, but Lauren found a local history book in the cabin, its pages detailing a 1960s disappearance. A couple vanished from a nearby cabin, their car found with scratches and muddy handprints. The knocking resumed at 3 a.m., now soft, almost pleading. Against Matt's protests, Lauren peeked through a window crack. In the rain, under a lightning flash, stood the figure, closer now, its cloak dripping, face hidden but radiating hunger. It raised a hand, claw-like, and the window rattled as if struck. Matt yanked her back and they prayed, clutching each other until dawn. When the rain slowed, the knock ceased, and sunlight revealed a muddy handprint on the window, too large for a human, fingers webbed like a frog's. Rangers arrived after Lauren's 911 call finally connected. They found no figure, but the cabin's exterior was scratched, the wood splintered with words, mine. The official report cited a prankster or animal, but rangers admitted privately that rainy nights brought strange reports, knocks, whispers, figures in the woods. Online forums shared similar tales. A 1980s hiker hearing knocks in a storm, a 2005 camper finding their tent slashed after ignoring a figure in the rain. Lauren and Matt cut their trip short, never returning to the area. Rainy nights bring dreams of that figure, its laugh echoing in their Seattle apartment. If you're in a cabin during a storm and hear a knock, don't answer. Some things in the rain don't need doors. They're already waiting to come in. And there you have it. 5 very scary, true rainy night horror stories that prove storms can hide more than thunder. From a ghostly hitchhiker luring drivers to a cursed bridge, to footsteps chasing through a drenched alley, a phantom bus stop in the fog, a face rising from a puddle, and knocks from a figure that shouldn't exist. These tales show how rain can wash away the line between the living and the lost. Drawn from real accounts, they linger like damp footprints, making you question what's out there when the skies open. Next time you're caught in a downpour, listen to the rain. It might be whispering your name. If these stories sent shivers down your spine, hit that like button and subscribe for more true horror tales to haunt your nights. Got a rainy night scare of your own? Share it in the comments. I'd love to feature it in a future video. Until next time, stay dry and keep an eye on the shadows in the storm. Good night.